You are listening to Cage Prophet Radio.
Damn, son, where'd you find this?
I'm not surprised, motherfuckers.
Man, I got a lot of cash and boy, my money low. Man, I got a lot of haters, keep that hating on.
Poppin' Cage Prophet listeners, this is episode 3. We're going to talk about the UFC 211 event that just happened last weekend in Dallas. I was in attendance. It was amazing. We're also going to talk a little bit about Bellator 179 going down this Friday in London, England. But first and foremost, we're going to talk about UFC 211 because it was just such a spectacular card. I saw a little bit of people talking about how it wasn't that great. I don't know what fucking fights you were watching. UFC 211 is easily the best card of 2017. It was such an awesome night of fights. I don't know where anybody gets off. Probably just butthurt that Yair just got dominated by Frankie Edgar. Maybe that's contributing to it a little bit. But the first fight I want to talk about is Chase Sherman versus Rashad Coulter. Now, Coulter is making his UFC debut in Dallas. He's a hometown fighter. He had a crowd on his side. None of us really knew too much about him. I know some people dug deep and found some tape on him. I was just going into this blind purely as a spectator to enjoy the show, and this fight ended up being fight of the night. This marked the first time that I thought somebody's leg was actually going to fall off in the fucking octagon. Chase Sherman, Vanilla Gorilla, he kicked this dude's leg so fucking hard that it was just flailing around. Coulter couldn't even bluff that it didn't hurt. It was clearly destroying Coulter's mindset. But that was such a back and forth banger, just two heavyweights slugging it out. It was like something you see in a fucking video game, not in real life. I haven't seen anything like it since probably Cub Swanson, Doo Ho Choi. That fight was pretty insane too. But this is two heavyweights slinging leather, and Sherman got that great knockout, standing elbow KO, and Rashad just buckled over backwards. It was extremely violent. It was one of those knockouts where at first I didn't see the elbow because everybody's screaming in the stadium, and then you just see Coulter just like fall over backwards. I thought it was like almost like a Dada 500 moment or something where he just gave out, but both these dudes just gave it everything. Both Chase Sherman and Rashad Coulter should be two people to look at going forward as just heavy hitters, not afraid to engage. Both those guys have full respect of the fans. It's going to be exciting to keep them on the radar for their next matchups. My personal favorite underdog, Jason Knight, cashed at, I had him at plus 120. He just went out and put on a show on Chaz Skelly. Chaz Skelly is no joke. He has all the skills to be a top-tier fighter. It just wasn't his night. Knight broke Skelly's forearm in the first scramble, I believe, and nobody even knew it. The only people who really knew it were Chaz and Jason. Chaz just kept fighting like nothing was wrong. It's pretty impressive to have a devastating injury and just keep on fighting. I mean, think about everything. Your forearm is literally used in everything in mixed martial arts. You got to block, punch, defend takedowns. You've got to do pretty much anything and everything with your fucking arm. So Chaz is so hard-nosed. I hope that he didn't sustain any more damage than he needed to. I know some people were pretty pissed about the stoppage. Jason was just fucking bouncing his head off the canvas towards the end. But all said and done, these two guys are both going to be top tier fighters. They're going to be names. They're going to be around for a long time. It was Jason Knight's night. It was his night to, really put on a show. And he showcased that he is ready for top tier competition, in my opinion. I'd really like to see Jason Knight crack the top 15 next of the featherweight division. If we give him a shot at someone like Henan Barao or Doo Ho Choi, I think both of those could be good matchups for him to really showcase how competent of a fighter he is. So I'd like to see them throw him up into the top 15, see how he fares, and see where he goes from there. I think Chaz is going to have a little bit longer of a climb to get there, but I think Jason Knight is well on his way into breaking his way into one of the premier fighters in that division. Jason Knight just came out with an awesome idea on his Twitter last night, though. He wants to fight Yair Rodriguez, which is a very interesting matchup. Look at what Frankie Edgar just did to Yair. I mean, Yair showed no competency on the ground. Zero competency. He basically just secured guard, and then Frankie just did work from inside guard. Frankie didn't even have to pass guard. There was just nothing Yair was doing to get up. Imagine what's going to happen when Jason Knight gets Yair to the ground. It's going to be a fucking massacre. I mean, Jason could pass guard, work submission attempts, or go knee on belly and hammer fist his face into another fucking dimension. It could be a very bad matchup for Yair. Frankie just exposed him as a terrible ground fighter. Everybody was all up on this flashy stand-up. Jason Knight's competent on his feet as well. So I think that this idea from Jason could be the best plan to launch himself into rankings there. Yair is currently ranked number 7. He just fought Frankie Edgar, who's number 2. So if Jason can get the fight with Yair, he's immediately going to launch into the top 10 with a win. He could be 1 or 2 fights away from a title shot at that point. I mean, Cody Garbrandt got his shot at rank number 5 against Dominic Cruz, went in, put on a show, and now he's the champ. So if Jason Knight just gets a finish on Yair, we could be looking at Jason Knight fighting for a title in the very near future. The next fight we're going to talk about on the recap is Dustin Poirier versus Eddie Alvarez. Now I'm going to name 2 other fights here. Tim Dirty Bird Means versus Cowboy Oliveira. Chris Weidman versus Gegard Mousasi. These are 3 fights this year that have been totally fucked up by this down fighter rule, knee to the face shit. No one knows what's going on. It's pretty ridiculous that with a sport as popular and widespread as the UFC, I mean, MMA is worldwide now. The UFC is worldwide. They're doing shows in Singapore, New Zealand, Germany, fucking Austria, Australia. They're doing shows fucking everywhere. Everywhere in the world. And you still don't have the fucking rules figured out? What the fuck is going on? It doesn't make any sense. How do you not have the rules figured out, but you're putting on events worldwide? I mean, there's just so much room for interpretation. Herb Dean has explained his call for making this a no contest rather than a disqualification based on his flow chart of intent. Now, I love Herb Dean. He's a great referee, has all of my respect. But there needs to be a more cut and dry format to the rule books than intent. Are you in the fighter's mind? I think Eddie Alvarez was pretty rocked. I don't think he was in the correct state of mind. I'll give you that, Herb. But it doesn't really matter if he's in the correct state of mind if he's not following the rules, right? I mean, if he gave him 2 groin strikes, you probably would have taken a point. But since he gave him knees to the head on a downed opponent, we're going to call it a no contest. It's basically a draw and a fuck you to whoever was going to win because you don't get your win bonus. It's a serious problem. They shouldn't be throwing out no contest when it should be a clear disqualification. If you go back to the Tim Means Alex Oliveira fight, that one was a little bit more questionable. Oliveira was on his way up. He was popping up and got kneed in the face, and then he couldn't continue the fight. Now, whether there's intent in throwing an illegal knee on Tim Means' part or just a split second of it being between legal and not legal, I think there's just way too much room for error. If you want to go ahead and instate an instant replay policy, and then you want to determine whether the knee is down or whether the hands are down, supporting weight, whatever the fuck it is that you do to determine whether that knee is legal or illegal, then the fighter will know, hey, I might get DQ'd if I throw knees in these positions, and then they'll move away from throwing knees. I think that's the best way to figure this situation out, because right now, you've got fighters playing this game where, oh, I'm going to put my palms down on the mat. I'm going to make them bear weight so I can't get kneed in the face. No, you just got kneed in the fucking face. And it doesn't matter because you're both going to get an NC. You'll meet up again in 2 or 3 months, and then we'll do all this shit show again to figure out who gets their win bonus then. It just doesn't make any sense. You can't play the game of, I'm going to put my hand down. It should just be genuinely, if you're down, we'll see the instant replay if the knee is thrown. If the instant replay shows that the knee is totally illegal, disqualification. I think the biggest problem here for the fighters and the biggest worry is paydays. And you've seen Ally Quinta going on and on about his win bonus not being awarded, and him being on a win bonus blacklist. There's way too many carrots being dangled over these fighters' heads. I think the best way to do away with all of these problems with fighters being upset about their pay is go ahead and pay them more and do away with the win bonus. People say, oh, that's not going to have a good effect on the fights. People are going to know they're going to get paid and they're not going to go out for the finish. Here's a kicker. How about you pay them a little bit more? Let's say everybody's show money is increased by 30 to 40%. And then if you get a finish, you get another bonus. And it's a pretty sizable one. You put a better package up just for a finish. Doesn't matter if it's submission, knockout, TKO, doesn't matter. As long as you get a finish, you get a bonus. But right now, as it stands, you can get your bonus on a split decision. If you get your bonus on a split decision, that really could have gone either way. And now you're just fucking somebody else from doubling their paycheck when you both put on pretty much the same performance. You guys put on the same effort, the same show. It's just one of you is going to double up their paycheck at the end of the night for a split decision. I think that should just result in show money, personally. I think that if you go to split decision, nobody really deserves that win bonus. If both of you probably deserve more money if you put on a show, but nobody deserves to have their paycheck doubled and one not have their paycheck doubled just because the judges said so. I think what should really happen is fighters should have more pay, and I think that the win bonus should be turned into a finish bonus, and it should be a lesser amount because the fighters are already being compensated better for their show money. That's just one man's opinion, and I think that with that, you're going to see a lot of fighters going in there well prepared, just ready to bang. It doesn't really matter if they win or lose. They're going to go for the knockout because they're already paid better, and they're going to get paid even better if they get the knockout or the submission. So that went off the rails a little bit, but let's fix this shit, UFC. You gotta get the rules figured out. You can't have people like Dustin Poirier going home after almost fucking winning a fight by finish in one of the most exciting fights of the night, and then going home with his show money because he got illegally kneed in the face 2 or 3 times. I mean, figure the rules out, and let's figure out this fighter pay system, because personally, I think that the win bonus is bullshit. I think that it's also subjective to say fight of the night or this or that, and you know what? You can keep the subjective one as long as fighters are compensated more rather than letting the judges decide who's going to double up their paycheck. I just still think that's so fucked up. But anyways, Damian Maia versus Jorge Masvidal was super exciting. That was probably the one I was going the most insane for in the arena. Jorge just needed to stop engaging. He engaged in the grappling too much. He played right into Damian's game. He went on top of him, and then you see Damian just slip his legs in there, try and get in that half guard, and then he's getting wailed on, and then he just puts his head right up in Jorge's chest, and then boom, we're climbing up to the back, and we're fucking human backpack for the rest of the round. That's just how Damian works. I mean, he'll let you think that this is about to be, your night, and then you come down to the ground, you're in his world, you're in a totally offensive position, and then now, you're in a defensive position. He's going to be fucking on your back trying to choke you for the rest of the round, and you can't shake him off. It's so impressive to watch Damian Maia work. It's real. That was probably one of the most sneaky, technical jiu-jitsu displayed in a while, in my opinion. I mean, Carlos Condit, he kind of just ran through him like butter. That was crazy. But Damian Maia basically letting Jorge think that he was about to get the knockout, and then slipping right around him. It's just beautiful to watch jiu-jitsu on that level. The judges got it right. Maia deserves that title shot. Let's see what T. Wood can do against him. And don't be surprised if Maia finds a way on T. Wood's back and gets that belt, man. I'm not going to be betting on that one, but I'm fucking really excited to watch that fight. And now, Cage Profit successfully predicted the double title defense. Joanna Jędrzejczyk is literally on another level. These chicks are swimming in like baby pools, and she's in the fucking deep end with dolphins and shit. I mean, she is such next level talent that I don't see anybody really coming to give her a challenge. I mean, the biggest challenge she had, in my opinion, was Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Carolina might look like a schoolgirl, but she can fucking bang, man. I know the judges' scorecards didn't reflect that, but look at Joanna's face after that fight. I mean, that was a brawl. And if you look at who's coming up, I mean, Rose Namajunas is being touted as Joanna's next big task, but let's be honest, Rose has some technical flaws, and if there's anything Joanna does best, it's exposing technical deficiencies. She is surgical. I mean, Andrade's coming forward, Joanna's pop, 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 throwing off some 4 or 5 punch combos, getting back, teep to the belly. Nope, you're gonna stay over there. It's just I'm going to destroy you with technicalities. That's what she does. And personally, I don't think Rose might be vicious, but Joanna is savage. So I'm looking forward to that fight happening. We'll see when it does, but I'm gonna be on Joanna's side again. And Stipe coming in hot for the title of greatest of all time at heavyweight, tying the record for most title defenses. And I know it's only 2, but I think we'll see Stipe keep this trend going. The biggest question mark for me on Stipe's horizon is Francis Ngannou. So we'll see how that goes. I personally think Derek Lewis will probably get the next shot at Stipe. And I love the Black Beast. He is so fun to watch. But I mean, just like I was talking about with Joanna, Stipe is a technical tactician. I mean, you saw how he dealt with Junior. He basically just stalked him down. Was like, I'm not going to let you get your offense started. This is my fucking offensive time. Walks him down. Junior did some damage on Stipe's legs. Stipe didn't let that divert his game plan at all. Stalked him down. Got the job done. First round finish. Stipe's the fucking man. And as far as I'm concerned, the biggest problem is Francis Ngannou. I would bet Stipe over Derek Lewis any day. I love the Black Beast still, but it's going to be Stipe over Derek Lewis. Anyways, so that's the UFC 211 recap. It was a great night. One of my favorite nights watching fights in a very long time. It was an awesome night. Tonight, however, we have Bellator 179 in London, England, and I'm not going to talk about this card too much, but the premiere of Rory MacDonald in Bellator just needs to be chatted about a little bit. He's facing off with Paul Daly, coming off a vicious flying knee knockout over Brennan Ward at Bellator 170 here in Los Angeles. I was at that fight as well. That was a lot of fun to be there for that. It's just Daly showing that he's dominant. I mean, he's violent. He knows what he's doing, but he's facing off against a UFC vet that has very high level fighters on his resume, and this is going to be a gigantic test for Paul Daly. And likewise for Rory MacDonald, this is going to be a test to see where he's at. He didn't finish very strong in the UFC. I mean, he had one of the greatest brawls ever with Robbie Lawler, but that took so much out of him. I really think that might have changed who he is as a person and a fighter. It was just so violent. It probably took years off his life, to be honest. And his nose showed a lot of problems. He broke his nose again against Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. And it just depends on if Daly's going to see that nose as a weakness and target it. And it could really change the course of the fight if Daly's targeting that nose and it gets busted up. Really could change how this fight's going to go. So I hope Rory's on point. Ready to showcase his multitude of skills, but defense first, man. Keep that face covered. Make sure that you're not getting any shots to that nose that you don't need to be taking. So personally, I think this is going to be a war. It's going to be back and forth. We're not going to see anybody get knocked out. We're not going to see anybody get submitted. I think this is going to go unanimous decision for Rory MacDonald, and he'll be fighting for the belt next. So that's it. Episode 3 is in the books. Thank you guys so much for tuning in again. I hope you're enjoying these episodes. We've got a couple really exciting fighters coming on the podcast soon. So please stay in touch, stay tuned in, share the podcast, share the love. I will see you next week.
Fade a breath, I'm blowing up, you staying next. AI flow, spraying vets, try to cut me off, I ain't fading yet. Man, I got a lot of cash and boy, my money long.